Hi, my name is Katie Cooper, and for my case study presentation, I did an exercise prescription for deaf and hard hearing. First, I'm going to introduce my case study, and then I'll give you some information about deaf and hard hearing, so then we can come up with a good exercise prescription for our client. So this is our client. His name is Albie, and he is 65 years old. He experienced a ruptured tympanic membrane from an explosion a few years ago, and that caused a great deal of hearing loss. But as he's getting older, his hearing is getting worse, and he can barely hear anything anymore. He also just moved to Westchester about 4 months ago, and he's not very familiar with the area. So he used to take his dog on walks for about 30 minutes a day, but now he's scared to take his dog on long walks because of the traffic in town. Some more information about Albie is that he weighs 170 pounds and is 6'2", so that's a BMI of 22. His father has passed away from a heart attack when he was 20. So Albie saw his father's lifestyle choices and decided to live a little healthier life. Albie did smoke, but he quit once his father passed away when he was 39, and now he is 65. Since moving to Westchester, he's completely seated workout, so he doesn't exercise or walk, so he's pretty inactive. He has also seemed to be losing his balance very frequently. Albie has a blood pressure of 119/73 and blood glucose of 110 milligrams per deciliter. All right, so we're going to look at Albie's risk factors. So since Albie is 65, that is a positive risk factor for cardiovascular disease. He has family history. His father passed away of a heart attack, so that would also be a positive risk factor. Even though Albie used to smoke, he has not smoked in the past year or even 5 months, so cigarette smoking would not be a risk factor for Albie. He is physically inactive because he hasn't been walking or doing exercise since he moved to Westchester 4 months ago, so that would be a positive risk factor. He is not obese, does not have hypertension, does not have dyslipidemia, and does not have diabetes, so those are all good. His HDL levels are high, so that's actually a negative risk factor for Albie. So we can subtract one of his risk factors. So totally, he only has two positive risk factors. All right. So what are some signs and symptoms of hearing loss? So some signs are muffling of speech and sound, which Toby is his dog. Albie has started to realize every sound is becoming muffled. Even though he lost a great deal of hearing loss during the explosion from his ruptured eardrum, as he's getting older, the muffling has gotten a lot worse. So another sign is difficulty understanding words, especially against background noise. Trouble hearing consonants, frequently asking others to talk more clearly, needing to turn up the volume or radio, and loss of sounds in high-pitched noises. The loss of sounds of high-pitched noises, it would be a big deal for Albie, because if he decided to take his dog on a long walk and a car honked his horn, he might not be able to hear it. So that could be a big concern for Albie. All right, so with all these signs and symptoms, you may ask, well, how does hearing loss occur? So hearing loss can occur from many different ways. So first, it can cause from damage to the inner ear. In your inner ear, you have a little circle thing, and it kind of looks like a conch shell, but it's called the cochlea. And the cochlea has these little nerve endings around it. And when you have repeated loud noise or blast going into your ear, these nerve endings can be damaged and can cause hearing loss or deafness. This one I thought was very strange when I heard it, but I guess it does cause hearing loss. Gradual buildup of earwax actually causes hearing loss. So When the wax builds up over time, it impedes the sound waves, so the sound waves won't be able to get through into the brain and into your cochlea. Aging also causes hearing loss. Sorry, I missed one. So the third one is tympanic membrane perforation. And like Albie said, this is what he experienced for his cause of hearing loss. So the tympanic membrane is a little membrane in your inner ear, and when there's large blast, it can actually burst. So another word for it would be busting your eardrum. Aging is another reason that causes hearing loss, and Albie is getting older, so it would make sense that his hearing loss is getting worse. Illness can cause it. So meningitis, people who have had meningitis can get really high fevers, and these high fevers can actually cause deafness. And then occupational noises and heredity also cause deafness and hard hearing. All right, so there's all these reasons that hearing loss can occur, but how can we treat these? So there's no real treatment for hearing loss, but there's ways to manage the hearing loss. So one way to manage hearing loss is to use a hearing aid. Hearing aids just amplify sound. So this could be beneficial for Albie when he's taking his walks and communicating with others, because it could amplify that sound. You'd be able to hear the cars coming if need be. The difference between a hearing aid and a cochlear implant is cochlear implants don't amplify sounds. What they actually do is they channel the sound around the damaged parts of your ear. So it completely bypasses the damaged parts of your ear and can actually reach the auditory nerves and can stimulate them, which then go to your brain and you can hear better, which is pretty cool. A new study that's being found is gene therapy can actually help in hearing loss. So if a family member or if a family knows that their children are predisposed to hearing loss and deafness, doctors can manipulate the genes so that doesn't happen. But it's a very new study and not much information has been brought out about that. All right. So here are some other considerations for individuals with hard hearing. Individuals with hard hearing, like I said, can participate in the same physical activities as people without hearing loss. So they're able to follow ACSM guidelines unless there's other factors that are preventing that. Hearing loss can cause difficulty with balance, which we saw in Albie's case. And then, so because of this, individuals should participate in activities that are associated with improving balance. So that would be like yoga, Tai Chi, working on strengthening your core, and more functional exercises. Another thing that would be really important is to set up cues with your personal trainer if you decided to get a personal trainer, because there could be the miscommunication between each other if you cannot hear what your trainer is saying. So there's a big safety precaution there. All right. So now, moving on, so now that we have more information about deafness and hard hearing, we can create a program for Albie. So this is Albie's aerobic prescription that I made for him. So since he's able to follow ACSM guidelines, I made his frequency 4 days a week minimum. I didn't want to start off as low as 3 days because I thought it was important for him to have a more consistent workout. For elders, I think it's important to use an RPE scale because it's a little hard while you're exercising to take your heart rate and find VO2 max and all of that. So max heart rate. So I made the intensity about 4 to 6 on the RPE scale, which is moderate exercise. It's also good using the RPE scale for individuals with hard hearing because they can just point to what's wrong. So instead of trying to communicate how are you feeling, all you have to do is show them the RPE scale. So the type of exercise I chose, since Albie loves to walk and is used to walking, I did walking. So Albie's going to walk with a 2-pound weight on each leg. Since he's not familiar with the area, I suggested parks that are around here for Albie to go to. So there's Marshall Square Park, that's in walking distance. There's sidewalks, and it's a very quiet area for him to walk to. There's also Goshen Park, which is about a 5-minute drive, where he could drive and walk there. Then there's Henderson High School, and then Westchester's indoor track that he could also use and get his exercise. I would advise Albie to wear bright colors so people can see him if he cannot hear the cars coming. All right, so then since Albie is having issues with balance, I wanted to incorporate a balance prescription as well. So the balance prescription is going to be 3 days a week minimum, 3 sets of 30 seconds each for each of the exercises, and you should do this for about 30 minutes. So some of the types of exercise I choose all work with the core and the intrinsic muscles of the foot to stabilize him. So it should be a flamingo stand, opposite arm and leg out, chair sit to stand. Those are just some examples that I chose. To make it more difficult for Albie, he could use an uneven surface or he can add weight. But that's when he can progress to see. All right, so since Albie can participate in ACSM guidelines, there are some exercise, he can do any type of exercise, but there are some exercise precautions. So for biking, he should make sure he can bike in a quiet area with little vehicle traffic, and he needs to stay very alert when he's crossing the streets. So he might not be able to hear a car coming, where us, we might not look and just like rely on our hearing. For swimming, he should not wear his hearing aids while he's swimming because they are not water resistant, if he has them. And then walking, he should just use a wide path or sidewalk and use bright colors so traffic can see him. Okay. There are many benefits to exercise, and one that everyone should know about is exercise increases blood flow to our ears, which actually can improve hearing. Now, I'm not saying this will completely regain all hearing, but it can improve it a little bit. It can also reduce anxiety, depression, improves balance, and improves a better outlook on life. It can also help you develop close relationships, which Albie may need moving to a different city. So these are just some different resources for Albie and others with hard hearing. So there's the Chester County Association of the Deaf, Chester County Self-Help for Hard Hearing, Westchester Deaf Seniors, Deaf Women's Connection, and then a website that he can look at is deafcanpa.org. So this is a local website that has different activities and different functions that they can people with hard hearing and deafness can go to and meet other people with their same disability. Another website is the deafcommunity.org, which you can go to get a lot more detailed information about deafness and hard hearing. Yeah. So, and then here are my citations. I could absolutely not get them to move it that way, but I hope you don't take off points for that. Thank you. I guess I don't know if I should have added that on, but this is my presentation, so thank you for watching.